saw Sabas with 3 daggers trapped between the fingers of his right hand. He opened up his hand and the daggers which they had hurled at the otherwise vulnerable Brain, and Climb clattered to the ground. The men's killing intent was getting weaker. But of course, anyone would lose the will to fight after seeing their thrown daggers blocked in that way. Do you finally see how powerful Sabas-sama is now? However, you've learned that too late. They were all trapped within the old man's palm. Even splitting up 3 ways would not save them now. Amazing. Climb stood by Brain's side indeed. I'd believe anyone who said that Sabas-sama was the strongest warrior in the kingdom. Even stronger than the warrior captain? You mean Stronov, right? Well, that old man is someone that I, myself, I'll speak in a more relaxed tone now. Even if Stronov and myself went up against him at once, we'd still lose for sure. Oh, here they come. The other 2 men had circled around and appeared behind them. Those 2 were dressed the same way as the first 3. The sound of a sword clearing his sheath came from beside Brain, and a moment later, Brain drew his own blade. They probably didn't keep someone in hiding to throw knives at us, because that old man saw through them. Ambushes only worked when they were unexpected. If someone had seen through it beforehand, then they would only be splitting up their forces. The enemy must have judged that it would be better to attack all at once now that they had been exposed. How naive. Climb-kun, I'll take the one on the right. You handle the one on the left. After examining their movements, Brain sensed that one of them was weaker than the other and indicated as much to the youth beside him. The young man nodded and raised his sword. His unhesitating movements were those which one could only find in those people who had fought for their lives. Brain was relieved that he was not an untested newcomer to combat. Climb-kun ought to have the advantage, but, given his opponent uses poison, it might be a close-fought victory. Even if Climb had actual combat experience, Brain did not feel that he was a blooded warrior who had faced poison-using opponents. For all he knew, that might be his first time doing so. Even Brain had trouble against monsters who used flesh-corroding acids or powerful venom. When fighting them, he became overly cautious and could not bring his full might to bear. Should I kill this guy immediately and then help him out? Would that help him? Would it hurt his pride if I went out of my way to help him? Should I fight them on his behalf? Or did Sabas-sama intend to help if there was any danger? If Sabas-sama doesn't step in, does it mean I should? To think the day would come when I'd actually worry about something like this. Brain scratched at his head with his free hand and stared down his foe. All right. Do excuse me for using you as a sacrifice to make up for my time spent idle. Diamond suit, 3 hits. Sabas stepped into range of the 3 men, who could not even react to him, much less defend themselves. Then he punched 3 times and the battle was over. But of course, Sabas occupied the pinnacle of Nazarik's combat power. He could deal with assassins of that caliber with only the tip of his little finger. The men keeled over, collapsing limply to the ground like cuttlefish. Sabas turned away from them and looked at the battle behind him. Brain had overwhelmed his foe from start to finish, which put him at ease. The assassin facing him seemed to be looking for a chance to flee, but Brain did not let him off. In fact, he even looked like he was toying with his opponent. No, that was not playing with him. Sabas sensed that Brain was running through his repertoire of moves to rehone his rusty skills. Right, I think I heard him say something about a time spent idle. Also, he seems to be worried about Climb-kun. Thus he's not fighting in earnest so he can come to his aid at any time. He seems like quite a nice fellow. Sabas turned his attention from Brain to Climb. He ought to be all right. The battle went back and forth. The fact his opponent used poison made him a little uneasy, but there did not seem to be a need to rescue him right away. He felt uncomfortable about involving an outsider, particularly one whom he favored, in his own matters, but, if he hadn't said he wanted to become stronger, I'd have gone to assist him. A fight for one's life is very good practice. I'll help him if he's in danger. Sabas stroked his beard and observed Climb as he fought. Climb blocked a thrust with his blade. A trickle of cold sweat flowed down his back. It had almost hit his armor. A hint of disappointment flashed across the cruel face of the man he was fighting. Climb stabbed forward, measuring the distance between the two of them. He noted that his foe was slowly backing off, and he did not want to let the man get away. Climb's usual fighting style was to defend with the shield and simultaneously attack with the sword. Being forced to fight with only his sword was a tortuous experience. The poisoned blade also made him very nervous. Mail breakers were weapons specialized for thrusting attacks, so he knew he only had to worry about thrusts. Even so, the fact that he could not allow himself to be so much as grazed by the weapon made his movements stiff. He calmed his breathing, which had been thrown into disarray by his physical and mental fatigue. The other guy's the same too. I'm not the only one who's tired. His foe's forehead was covered in sweat. The man used his agility to make a mockery of his foe, which was a truly assassin-like way of fighting. Thus, wounding any of his limbs would make him lose the advantage, and upset the balance of fighting power. The battle would be decided in one hit. This was the source of both parties' tension. Granted, all evenly matched battles were like that, but it was that much more obvious in this fight. Hoo! With a sharp expulsion of breath, Climb swung at his foe. The swing moved slowly, and he did not put much force into it. That was because he would leave himself wide open if he went for a full swing, and his opponent dodged. The assassin easily dodged it and reached into his breast pocket. Climb observed the upcoming attack and kept an eye on the assassin's hand. A dagger flew forth and Climb cut it out of the air with his sword. He had been lucky. He had managed to deflect it since he was paying attention. However, he could not breathe easy just yet. The assassin had already lowered his stance and slid into attack range. This is bad. His spine turned to ice. He could not block the follow-up hit. He had swung too hard when deflecting the thrown dagger out of fear. His sword was now hanging out of position in mid-air, and it was too late for him to turn it back to intercept his foe. He thought to evade, but the assassin's agility was superior to his own. There was nothing else to be done. Maybe he could use his arm as a shield. Just as he resolved himself, the incoming assassin clutched his face and stumbled backwards. It would seem a bean-sized pebble had struck the assassin just above the left eye. Climb's perceptions, heightened by the dangerous situation, confirmed that fact. He knew who had thrown it even without looking back. Seba's voice from behind him was the best proof of that. Fear is an important emotion. But you cannot be ruled by fear. I have been watching you fight from just now, and I feel that your fighting style is too plain and conservative. If your foe had been willing to sacrifice one arm, you would assuredly be dead. If your physical abilities are inferior to your opponent, then you must defeat them with your spirit. The strength of one's will can sometimes surpass the weakness of one's flesh. Climb answered yes in his heart, and he was quite surprised to find himself much more relaxed. He did not feel like he could depend on someone else to watch him, but he was relieved that someone else was watching him. Of course, his fear of death was not completely gone, but even so, if I die, please tell Renner-sama, Her Highness, about my glorious battle. He expelled a long breath, and then silently brought his sword up into a ready stance. Climb sensed a gleam in the assassin's eyes that was different from just now. It had only been a short while, but he felt like he had connected with the assassin's spirit on some level during this life-or-death struggle. The assassin sensed that Climb was prepared for death, and he seemed to have placed his life on the line as well. He stepped forward, without saying a word of course, and closed the distance in a single move. After verifying the assassin was within his attack range, Climb brought his sword down in a scything chop. At that moment, the assassin leapt back. It would seem the other man had gotten the measure of Climb's swings, and had used himself as bait to make a feint at Climb. However, the assassin had forgotten one thing. Perhaps he might have grasped the speed of Climb's. However, he did not know this move. Climb had the utmost confidence in this downward strike of his. It was faster than all his other moves and more forceful. The chop at the shoulder was stopped by the chain shirt, and so it did not cleave the man bodily in two. However, it easily broke his clavicle and crushed his flesh along with his shoulder blade. The assassin collapsed heavily to the ground. He was drooling from the intense pain and howling in agony. Magnificent. Sabas appeared behind him and casually stomped on the assassin's belly. With that, the assassin fell silent, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. He must have fainted. From the corner of his eye, he saw that Brain had already finished off his assassin. He waved casually to Climb to celebrate his victory. Then, I shall begin the interrogation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Sabas brought over one of the men and slapped him awake. The man regained consciousness with a shudder, and Sabas placed his hand on the man's head. Sabas had not used much force, but within 2 seconds the man's head lolled back, then snapped back to its original position like a pendulum. The man's eyes were now unfocused, like he was drunk. Sabas began asking questions. The assassin, a man of a traditionally tight-lipped profession, sang like a canary. Faced with this bizarre sight, Climb asked Sabas, "What did you do to him?" This is a skill called the puppeteer's palm. Fortunately, it looks like it worked. Climb had never heard that technique before, but he frowned at what the man was saying. They were assassins trained by 6 arms, the strongest combatants of 8 fingers. They had apparently followed Sabas in order to kill him. Brain asked Climb, "I don't know much about them, but 8 fingers ought to be a major crime syndicate, right? I think they have connections with some mercenaries." "Yes, and 6 arms are the scariest of them all." 6 arms refers to the 6 fighters, who make up the organization's strongest fighting force. I heard that each of them can rival an adamantite-ranked adventurer. However, I'm not sure exactly who those 6 people are, since I'm not too clear on the details of their organization. The man went on to say that Succulent, the one who had visited Sabas' house, was a member of 6 arms, known as Devil of Illusions. His plan was apparently to eliminate Sabas, and do as he pleased with the young lady of the house. As he heard this, Climb felt a chill wind blow over him. The source of that cold was Sabas. Sabas slowly rose, and Brain addressed him. "What do you plan to do next, Sabas-sama?" "I have decided. First, I will destroy that troublesome place. Besides, it would seem that Succulent is there as well, according to this man. It is best to stamp out fires before they can grow." Brain and Climb both inhaled sharply at that casual answer. The fact that he had declared his intention to fight his way into the enemy headquarters indicated that he was confident of defeating an adamantite-ranked adventurer, in other words, a man whose fighting power was at the zenith of human achievement. However, neither of them was surprised. He could defeat 3 skilled assassins in the blink of an eye, and even the renowned Unglaus-sama showed deference to him. What sort of man is Sabas-sama? Could he be a retired adamantite-ranked adventurer? Also, I hear that there are other captives in there. It would be best to move quickly. That makes sense. If the assassins do not return, it will arouse suspicion. We will not be able to save the captives if they are moved elsewhere. Sabas was in a situation where time was not on his side, but on the enemy's. Then I shall be heading there presently. I apologize, but I am set in my course. Can I trouble the 2 of you to drag these assassins to the nearest guard post? Please wait, Sabas-sama. If you don't mind, could you let this one lend you a hand? Of course, that is only if you are willing. Me too. Protecting the peace of the royal capital is my duty as Renner-sama's loyal servant. If the kingdom's citizens are being oppressed, this sword of mine shall hasten to their aid. I don't think Unglaus-kun will have a problem, but it might be a bit dangerous for you. I understand that. Climb-kun, I guess Sabas-sama thinks you might get in the way, no? Although I'm probably the same as you in his eyes. No, that was not what I meant. I was simply worried about you. I hope you understand that I cannot protect you like I did just now. I am prepared for that. What I am doing next might not win honor for you or your mistress, you know. I feel that there will be other chances for you to stake your life in battle, do you not think so? If I watch mutely from the side, because things are dangerous, that'll only prove that I am a man who does not deserve to serve his mistress. Just as my mistress saved the common folk, I too wish to do everything I can to lend a helping hand to those who are in dire straits. Just like how she reached her hand out to me, Sebas and Brain looked at each other. Perhaps they had sensed his iron determination. Are you prepared for this? Sebas asked. Climb nodded. I understand. That being the case, there is nothing else to be said. I hope the two of you will lend me a hand. Clone. New paste. Few persons can be made to believe that it is not quite an easy thing to invent a method of secret writing which shall baffle investigation. Yet it may be roundly asserted that human ingenuity cannot concoct a cipher which human ingenuity cannot resolve. Edgar Allan Poe. O. 184,830 pastes opened. Based on an original idea from sebsavage.net. Sam and Max.